Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audiofiction. This is the series Romeo and his Marinette, and it was for Marichat Monday, but it's kind of developed and my schedule has shifted. So make sure you send some love by smashing that like button. Send Kim some love by checking out her links below for her beautiful artwork in the thumbnail. Make sure you comment down below what you think of this chapter and what will happen next, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on this series and other one-shots to come, especially with my schedule all over the place at the moment. So I hope you enjoy. Part 7. Adrien's POV. Today had been a strange day. To be honest, it was one he had feared. It started well. Amazing, really, waking with the knowledge of seeing his girlfriend. Wow, it hadn't really sunk in yet. The girl, Marinette, the one he loves him back. A giddy laugh sprang forth at the mere thought of it. Oh, he was happy. She said he made her happy. They had spent the afternoon curled up in each other's arms, not really invested in the film in front of them, but rather catching up on the small details they had missed, laughing at the misread signs and the almost chances of confessing their feelings to one another. He could tell his princess still held a sense of nervousness about stepping out of their bubble and going public, wary of the comments and opinions from people that didn't really matter. But to place Marinette at ease with the shifting situation, they had agreed yesterday afternoon to take it slow at school, to get used to the idea of being a couple and working out how they were going to break the news to the friends and the rest of the class. But saying that, he found it hard not to wrap his arms around Marinette, who was early for one, standing on the front steps, holding a box of treats in her hands and a shy smile spread across her lips. His heart racing at the thought of kissing those lips. So how had the day turned so badly when the morning had been filled with possibility, flirtation, love? To his heart pounding in his chest as he raced after a weeping Marinette through the streets of Paris. They hadn't been able to spend lunch together. Natalie had ordered him home to eat a small plate of regimented food, which had left any taste back in the kitchen, and alone, instead of laughing at Nino's jokes, giving feedback to Alia on her latest blog, and most importantly, sneaking Marinette away so they could be alone. Or better yet, tell their closest friends they were finally dating. It didn't help that this afternoon classes differed from Marinette's, with him having to take advanced maths. They had agreed to meet in the locker room before his car needed to pick him up, but she wasn't there. He darted to her last class, but again, no sign of her. It wasn't like her to leave. No, she wanted to be held in his arms as much as he wanted it. He tried ringing her, but there was no answer. His heart skipped a beat at the sound of a message coming through, only to instantly sigh when he had seen it was the third one from his bodyguard, with an emoji of an angry face this time. He had to go, and he would explain to her how they had simply missed each other later over the phone. What he hadn't expected to hear was Marinette's muffled cry, her hands clenched across her mouth as she raced past him towards her home. "Marinette! What happened? What's wrong?" He reached out a hand to her, but she kept running. "Marinette!" There was no choice to make. He instantly took chase after her, but she was fast, faster than he thought she was. What on earth, or who on earth, caused his princess this much pain? All he wanted to do was wrap her up in his arms and take the burden for himself. She had reached the blue side doors before he could catch her, slamming it shut, ignoring him as he called out again. Why was she shutting him out? Was it something he had done? Adrien turned on his heels, braced himself and dashed through the shop door. Thankfully there were no customers. "I need to see Marinette." Adrien blurted out to Tom, who was standing in front of him with his arms crossed and held an angry, puzzled expression. "What's wrong with my daughter?" Tom leaned in a little closer, and Adrien realized he had stopped breathing. He felt Plague shift in his top pocket, making his presence known. This was urgent. If Marinette became akumatized, he didn't know what he would do. Be able to fight her? No, he needed to remain strong, let out his more hero side. Adrien released the breath he had been holding on to. "Sir, Mr. Dupin, I don't know, but I need to see her, to let her know I'm here for her." Tom narrowed his eyes at Adrien, the same look he'd given to Kat a year ago when he came for dinner. "I have to do something. What if an Akuma?" That was all he needed to say. Tom took a step to the side and allowed him to pass. Vivid images of Dad flinging Kat around like he was a rag doll, and how he struggled to fight back, filled his mind, guessing it would be so much worse for Adrien. He darted up the steps, taking 2 at a time. "Marinette! Open up! I know something happened at school. Please, let me in. Let me help." He banged his hand on the door. "No, Adrien!" she cried in anguish, her words taking him by surprise. "Just go! We have been foolish, lying to ourselves." What was she saying? What had happened to make her believe that? "There is no lie, Marinette. You hold my whole heart, so you know there can't be any room for lies." He leaned his forehead against the door. If only he could hold her, wipe away the tears and whisper words of comfort into her ear, confirming how much he adored, loved her to the point he was no longer able to contain it. I can't do this." The pain in her words seeped through the door and shot him in the heart. He pushed his hands hard against the door, willing her to allow him to stay. I can't perform with you. I can't do this. Us? The divide, it's too great." He could hear how broken she was at saying these words. They didn't sound right coming from her, especially after yesterday. No, she was the one who was lying, speaking words that weren't her own. "Princess, please," he pleaded, feeling his own tears dripping from his jaw and onto his t-shirt. "Please, just go." Oh, the pain in her voice was unbearable. How could he leave her like this? Then he heard Sabine on the other side of the door, speaking words of comfort, knowing she was now nestled in her mother's arms instead of his own. He rolled his forehead off the door, leaving a kiss behind, hoping it would find its way to his princess. His feet felt heavy as they trudged down the steps and through the side door. He tried to track through his now foggy thoughts to how this could have happened. Who would have planted the seed of doubt inside her heart, hoping the roots could tear them apart? And yet, no one else knew they were a couple yet, unless Marinette had confided in Alia. No, their 2 best friends would be happy for them. That he knew for a fact. So who? He hadn't been aware of the travel back home until his bodyguard opened the door for him. He wasn't aware of Natalie spewing out orders and tasks to be completed, only his head nodding in auto playback. He calmly shut the door and aimed for his bed, landing face down. It couldn't be over between them. He wouldn't believe it, hoping his agonizing pain in his heart was temporary. "Kid, you okay?" Plague said in a surprising soft voice, feeling a tiny tap on his head. "No, Plague, I'm not." How could she say those words? To push me away like that? Adrien's muffled voice seeped into the covers along with his tears. "I don't think she meant them, kid. She sounded scared." Adrien could make out the sound of Plague munching down on a piece of cheese.
What I've seen of Marinette, she can be bold and fearless when she needs to be, but underneath that she is constantly worrying, putting herself down, thinking less of herself.
Adrien instantly sprung up.
But she's none of that. She's amazing, thoughtful, caring, the biggest heart I've ever known. Don't tell me that. Tell her.
Plag shoved another chunk of cheese into his mouth.
But she doesn't want to see me. She won't open the door to me. Then go through the window. She knows you're Cat Noir, so take advantage of it. Yeah, she does.
Adrien pushed himself up to a seating position.
But wouldn't that be wrong? Intruding? What if she refuses to speak to me? Then at least you've tried. But she needs you, kid. Since when did you get so wise and willing to help in the matters of the heart?
Adrien raised his eyebrows at him.
Don't get used to it, kid. This is a one-off. I like Marinette. She's good for you.
Aw, buddy. Thanks. Adrien tried to give Plag a little scratch behind his ear, but he darted out of reach.
Yeah. So, are you going to say the word or not?
For a split second, Adrien could swear he saw a little smirk across his buddy's face.
Plag, claws out.
Cat Noir jumped out of his bedroom window and headed straight to his princess. Cat landed on Marinette's balcony gently, as not to startle her, unaware of the figure wrapped in a blanket as Marinette sat on her sunchair. Cat! Her voice was low and broken, but it was enough to startle him and cause him to leap into the air, landing awkwardly in a power stance. And yet, the tiny chuckle that emitted out of his princess was healing music to his heart. Marinette, my love, please, don't call me that. The same fragmented voice filtered out from the curled up ball in front of him. Ignoring the pain the words had caused, he took a step closer to her. Why not? You are my love. You are. Why are you here, Cat? She cut him off. Because you're in pain, and I want to be here for you. To find out what had changed so much since this morning, since yesterday. I love you, and I know you love me, so I need you to tell me what went wrong. Was it something I did? He stepped closer to the ball of fabric as it shuddered slightly with a barely audible sobbing sound emitting out of it. Princess, please, let me be here for you. He perched on the bottom edge of the chair and stroked the fabric that surrounded her head. Cat, it's nothing. Adrien has done. It's just... I stepped out of the bubble and back into reality, into the situation, realizing we might have more in common with Romeo and Juliet than I thought. She muffled the last part, but he could still make it out. I'm sorry, but I still don't understand. The only reality is that I love you and you love me, and I want to be with you more than anything else in the world. He gently pushed back the fabric to reveal more of her face, and saw her red, swollen eyes staring back. A crushing pain attacked his heart, and in a single move, he wrapped his arms around his princess. He had expected her to fight him off after the words of rejection, but she did the opposite. She slid her arms around his waist and nestled her head into the nook between neck and chest. I love you. I do. It's just... She let out a sigh. Her breath tickled against his exposed skin above the neckline of the suit. Tell me what happened today. There has always been a part of me that worried what would happen if we ever started dating. Torn between wanting to be with you and the disappointment. No, the sheer heartbreak of letting you go. He wanted to jump in and protest against her words, but knew it would be best to allow her to freefall down this burrow of thoughts. Instead, he pulled her in tight into his embrace, resting his head on top of hers. We haven't even told anyone we are dating, and I already got a glimpse of it. We are both from 2 different worlds, and I know you're not the biggest fan of yours, and yet you can't escape it. Not the expectations your father has for you, knowing one of them isn't dating a bakery girl. He paused, seeing if she was going to continue before stepping in. It's true. My father has got a lot of expectations for me, including who I am to date. But that is my father. I get to choose who I love, who is in my heart, and I will challenge and battle anyone who comes in the way of that. Who planted these seeds of doubt in you today? He had his suspicions, but needed to confirm it in her own words. She ran her fingers over the leather and wished he could feel the touch better against his skin. Claws in, he breathed. The sudden chill of the night air hit him, grabbing at the blanket and wrapped it around both of them. Your heartbeat is clearer without the suit on. Her fingers continued to run against his t-shirt now, the transformation not halting her movement for a single second, but he enjoyed the soothing sensation it now brought. It started at lunchtime, once you left, and I was sitting with Alia and Nino in the canteen. They were small comments at first. I don't know how much you know about what my life was like at the school before you and Alia had turned up. Adrien shook his head. He had no idea, but he had heard rumors, of course, and presumed it was pretty much as it was now. If you can believe it, I was a bigger fumbling mess than I am now. I didn't have a close friend and kind of kept mostly to myself. In fact, the opposite to what I have now. Except one thing, which hasn't changed. And before I say anything, I know Chloe has been your oldest friend, but she had confirmed at least one name, and felt a surge of anger at what that bitter girl could have possibly done or said to his Marinette. Yes, I have known Chloe since childhood, and I also know that she can be like how she has treated you. I would never have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. How she bullies you, but also how you raise yourself up when she tries to knock you down. I try to, but it's hard. Her words are like weeds, hard to root out, especially when she... Her voice filtered off, cracking at the edges, and for once he saw a slither of the pain Marinette had been holding in for years. How long has she been bullied? And was this why she held this false image of herself, of being unworthy? Although it was different, he knew what it was like to have someone who constantly belittled you, scrutinized your every move, and makes you feel less than anyone else around you. A damp patch was now forming on his shirt, soaking into his skin as she tugged at the cotton between her fingers. He curled his arms tighter around her, softly stroking one hand up and down her back. If you feel you are able to, I want to know what she did to you today. He breathed into her ear. Her breath was short, catching in her throat as she described what had happened to her in the girls' toilets, with Lila included. Rage coursed through every part of him as she spoke of being thrown into the cubicle, trapped inside. Feeling his own body tighten as he attempted to control his emotions. How dare anyone do this to his princess, to Marinette, but even more so that his so-called friend did it in his name, using the excuse that she was better than Marinette, using hateful words, physically attacking her. Marinette, who was light, love and kindness, who was the best person he knew.
That Chloe and Lila had the nerve to even suggest they were her better? Had she been subjected to this cruelty for years? Well, now it was going to stop. A growl surged from the hidden depths of his soul and erupted out of his chest. It was a mixture of his own and that of Plague, who he could sense was combusting with his own anger. How dare they do that to you? No wonder you acted that way, but believe me when I say, none of what they said was true. They are the ones beneath you, and they have no say on me or our relationship. He stroked his hand down her face, along her jaw, and encouraged her to look up at him. The pain blended with fear caused a storm in her ocean eyes, breaking his heart. I love you, and I will defy anyone who thinks they shall come between us, my love.
Adrien, I was so scared to tell you.
But why? You know you can tell me anything, that I'm here for you. Please, don't push me away like that again.
I was scared you would think less of me. For years I've had to hear her hateful words, pretending they don't matter when really they have taken root in me, and I can't seem to dig them out. So when she said that about us...
Your default is to believe it even when you know it to be lies? Yeah, I get that.
She gave him a knowing look that he was referring to his father, but this wasn't about that for now.
But she is going to stop. I will speak to her and make sure she does.
Adrien, you can't. What if it makes it worse? My parents tried speaking to the principal, and all she had to do was get Daddykins on the phone, and no one cared what we had to say.
She can't get away with this, my princess. To make you feel like that when you are the most wonderful person I know? I'm sorry, but I will have to say something, and if she wants her daddy on the phone, then I will deal with that too.
How? And what about your own father? Surely he won't be happy with you getting involved, threatened to take you out of school? I won't let you, not for me. She cast her gaze downwards.
There you are, believing those hateful words again? Believing you aren't worthy of the attention, of the sacrifice? I meant what I said, Marinette, my love. I will defy anyone who shall come between us, including my father. I will fight for you, for us. Will you?
His fingers brushed down her face, smearing in the tears, feeling some of his own dripping onto her cheek, blending together. Her gaze drifted up and locked onto his. The storm had settled to deep waves soaring with love and crashing down with a new determination. Yes, yes, we will fight this together. I love you. She breathed onto his lips before kissing him with a passion that confirmed they were in this as one. For the rest of the night, they held each other in their arms, cementing their love until his princess started to fall asleep. He carefully carried her back through the skylight, keeping the blanket wrapped round her, and kissed her goodnight on her forehead, making a silent promise to his love that she won't be alone in this anymore, that she will always have him to love, support, and fight for her. He climbed back out, closing the skylight behind him.
Plague? You good there, buddy? I felt you buzzing in my pocket for a while back when Marinette was telling us. Yeah, kid, but no one gets away treating Princess like that. Shows how strong she really is. She is the strongest person I know. I don't know how she's coped all this time facing it alone, but now she has me. Us, you mean? I want to help teach those two brats a lesson. Okay, buddy. Let's head back and come up with a plan. This version of Romeo and Juliet isn't going to end in a tragedy if we have anything to do with it. Claws out. Cat leapt off the balcony and headed back to his bedroom. Tomorrow he would be Marinette's night, starting by having a word with those two. Thank you for listening to part 7 of Romeo and his Marinette. Yeah, it's kind of evolving. And I'm not too sure how many more parts it will have to come, so don't ask. I'm just kind of writing and it will end when it ends. So there might be 1 more or 2 more or 3 more. So I'm not too sure. But make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you comment down below what you think of it and what will happen next. And subscribe so you do not miss out on this part or any goodies to come, because my schedule is all over the place at the moment. I'm doing catch up. So make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out, and press that notification button just to be on the safe measure. And I hope you are good, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.